parked up in Broadway, down in the Cotswolds. I'm spending the next couple of days down here. I'm going to see my sister and my mum, and I've even booked myself a nice little hotel to stay in for this evening because my parents' house is still not ready here. So I booked myself a little hotel stay. It's really right in the middle of all of the villages that I grew up in here, which is very handy because I thought over the next couple of days we could do sort of a bit of a tour of the Cotswolds and the houses that I grew up in. I think it's funny because I think some people have their family home that they really feel like is home, whereas for me I just feel like the Cotswolds is my home. There's not one house in particular, and it just meant that I got to experience lots of different places, and I have got very, very fond memories of my childhood. So with all of that being said, I know that the Cotswolds is something I always talk about, and ultimately, you know, might be where I end up one day. Kenny and I are very much discussing this at the moment, kind of what our next steps are and where we want to ultimately be when he comes back from playing football abroad. And the Cotswolds is definitely one of the places that we are considering. I always assumed I'd move back to the Cotswolds, but I think we love Cheshire now as well, so that would be another possibility. But yeah, we have been doing some very early sort of initial house hunting, just feeling out the market in a few different places. So we might have a look in a few estate agent windows today as well. I just thought I'd bring you along, and I'm going to do it with my mum because my mum can remember all the facts. I'm going to absolutely love it. It's like going down memory lane, and I thought I'd just show you the places that I feel like really made my childhood and are really sort of marked in my memory as being where I grew up. And the added bonus is the Cotswolds is very beautiful. It is a very, very, very beautiful spring day today. In fact, I had to just quickly do a quick car wardrobe change because I was wearing a jumper and I think it's 24 degrees. There'll be all the usual bits as well. Mum and I are actually about to go for lunch. I've got dinner booked with my sister and my mum this evening, and tomorrow we might even do some shopping. So it's just the usual. So first stop is actually Broadway. I've never actually lived in Broadway, but we've always lived within sort of like 10 minutes from Broadway, and Broadway is so beautiful. So we've always spent a lot of time here. I know we came here at Christmas and looked at the Christmas markets and that sort of thing, but it's got a whole different vibe when it's spring, summer. And Mum and I really love the deli here for lunch, so we're just going to pop into the deli now, get some lunch. My doctor's surgery was here growing up, which doesn't sound very significant, but I need to show you the building that it was in because even that was kind of like local, small village, Cotswolds, picturesque doctor's surgery. I think it's now a house, but it was my doctor's surgery. So we'll go and have a quick look at that, but mostly we're here to grab some lunch, and I'll show you around Broadway because Broadway is, if you are ever visiting the Cotswolds, Broadway is a must. It's beautiful here. So let's go. For lunch we did what we always do at Broadway Deli, and we got one of these mushroom and lentil, I think, sort of pastries, and then this is a mix of 3 different salads. There's a Greek salad in there, a tabbouleh, and then a celeriac salad, and then this is some sort of roasted aubergine salad as well. There are so many really good sort of healthy vegan options at the deli. Okay, we've just finished lunch and we couldn't leave Broadway without popping into our favourite shop, which is At Home with the Rudds, so we're heading there now. Okay, we've just left Broadway. Mum and I both got a tea for the road. Managed to make a purchase in at home with the Rudds in that very short space of time, of course. And now we are heading to the first village that I ever lived in my memory. So I lived there from when I was less than 1 until, I think we worked it out the other day, I was maybe 4 or 5. I think I started school from that house.
Yeah.
And what's funny is thinking about it now, Mum and Dad would have been roughly my age when they first bought this. I have really fond memories in this house. This is where my doctors used to be, it's that building there. But because it's now privately owned, they're obviously doing some renovations on it, so I couldn't really show it to you, otherwise I would have driven up to it. Okay, we've just parked up and we're walking towards the house. We did see that I think the current people who live there are actually out in their garden, so obviously need to respect their privacy. So I don't know how much I'll be able to film, but we'll give it my best shot. But it's very beautiful here. I remember going for walks with my dad and the dog that we had. We had a dog here, didn't we, Mum? Yeah, we did. And the dog that we had at the time. I'll show you sort of like the approach and the footpaths around the house, and then I'll show you the actual house from the outside when we get there too. Mum and Dad had friends who lived in these houses at the end of our road. I've definitely been in this house on the end, but I know we've been in that one. I think if Dad was here, he'd remember who lived there, definitely. And then there's just fields this way. So we lived on the other side of this, but our house looked exactly like this. And we must have known the neighbourhood, did we, Mum? Was this Jack? It was, yeah. Our house was it was identical to this, but on the other side, I'll see. Because we also owned some land opposite the house. And this is the village that I was saying I walked across the fields to see my childhood best friend Grace, who I'm still friends with today. But yeah, this was the village, and then we lived at the very top of the village. Okay, we've just parked up in Hidcote. There's 2 Hidcote villages very close to each other, the one that my friend lived in and the one that I lived in. So we lived in Hidcote Boyce, and then 2 fields across is Hidcote Bartram, which I will also show you. Hidcote Bartram is the one with the National Trust. It's so beautiful, but it's also very, very nice here. Mum and I were just saying we opened the door and the only sound, in fact, the only sound is birdsong. It's so pretty here. Our house was right at the top of the village, so it kind of just backed onto sort of like fields and a big hill that was behind our house. Yeah, let's go see. This is an old horse's drinking trough. Okay, so this is the approach to the back of the house. This was my 3rd house that I ever lived in, and Mum and I were working out that we think I lived here roughly being 7. So that was obviously the walk over to Hidcote Bartram, and when I said our house backed onto the walk and my friend and I only had to cross 2 fields, that's because this here, don't know if you can see any of it yet, but this here was our house. And my dad did a lot of renovation on this house. So if you can see at the end of the house, there's like a section that obviously wasn't on the original house. My dad built that. And originally it was kind of a separate studio for my dad just to do his painting, because both of my parents are artists. So my dad used to sit up there and do painting. And obviously also that back window looked out over what we've just seen, all of the hills and everything. And then also I think did we build this bit on the back of the house there, Mum? Did Dad do?
Yes.
Yes, yeah. But what's gorgeous about this house is it's got a wraparound garden the whole way around, and then at the front there's a really gorgeous sort of like double oak garage, but I don't think we ever built the room above it. We were going to, but we never did. This was Dad's little studio behind the big gates there. If you can see that gate there, that's the gate, or one of the gates on Hidcote Gardens, the National Trust. And then this is just the 2 fields, so it's this green one all the way down into that sort of ridge in the middle, and then obviously the field that's been ploughed. But that used to be the strawberry picking field, that one that's been ploughed, and that is where we would just basically spend whole afternoons picking strawberries and eating them. We had this little village green. So this is Hidcote Bartram. This is where my lifelong friend Grace lived when we were little. And there's also Hidcote Garden. So there'll be a few people around today, I imagine, because that on the right-hand side is Hidcote Garden's house, or Hidcote House. I don't know exactly what it's called. And then Mum showed them this way. Grace and I used to play up here as well. This is her dad's land, and there used to be a zip wire which we had endless fun on, and her horses also used to be in there. I just can't believe now, looking at it, and obviously having lived in cities for years, but I just can't believe that we got free sort of roam of this for our whole childhood. We're so lucky. This is the end of the village that obviously goes out onto those fields that used to be the strawberry picking fields, and they used to sell the strawberries actually in this barn. And then these chickens, they still have chickens here, but when it was Grace's grandma who had the chickens, they used to just be everywhere, all out here. This is sort of the reverse view of what we just saw. So you can see in the distance the green field, and actually you can see the path just about that would walk under that big tree. Okay, we've just arrived at Blockley. Blockley is the second village that I ever lived in the Cotswolds. We only rented here. We rented a little cottage that was part of like a schoolhouse. So this is where we lived between my first house and then living in Hidcote. I think we probably rented here while Dad renovated. Is that right, Mum? Yeah, we rented here while Dad did up the Hidcote house. But Blockley, both Mum and I love Blockley as a village. We love the fact it's a very sort of like higgledy-piggledy village. It's got a gorgeous stream that we used to play in as children. I'll take you there and show you that. It's got like a village shop, and I had lots of friends that lived here when I was little. So I feel like I spent a lot of time here, even though we probably only lived here for maybe a year, 18 months or something. But we'll go and show you the old schoolhouse that we lived in, and then also I just want to show you a bit of Blockley because I love it so much, and I feel like, I don't know whether it's a very touristy village. I don't know whether people come here when they come to the Cotswolds as much as they do some of the others like Hidcote and Chippinghampton, places like that, and Broadway. Broadway's very touristy. But I think first port of call is to pop to the shop and grab an ice cream if they have one, so let's go. This is the approach down to our little schoolhouse cottage, and Mum was saying that all of these on the left here, all of these cottages would have once been shops, which you can really imagine with that one, walking up the steps to a shop. And then just on the corner was the school, which is where we lived. But it's so quiet down here. We really like Blockley. So this was our cottage at the front here. It was all of this, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really remember the layout inside this house, which is quite funny because I can remember my first house when I was older in this house, but I think because we only lived here very briefly, I don't remember it as well. I do know that that was Dad's office. That tree must block all of the light into there. And then that was the living room. That was your bedroom at the top?
I think so.
And it's a very pretty house, isn't it, really? Then that was our drive, was it? Yeah. So this is where any day that it was sunny like today, we would ask Mum if we could come down to the stream and paddle in this stream, and actually it'd be full of children. I don't think anyone's here today, but it would be full of children every day that looked like this, just playing in the stream. So gorgeous here. There are some really gorgeous houses along here. We've just checked in. We're staying at the Fish Hotel, which is part of, I think it's the Farncombe estate, which also has Dormy House and Foxhill Manor. Dormy House has always been an absolute go-to for my friends and I around here whenever we catch up and have a drink. It's such a gorgeous place. We're actually heading over there for dinner after this, so that'll be really, really lovely. My sister's going to come and meet my mum and I here, and then we're just going to take advantage of the views and the sunshine. And funnily enough, just outside the room, they have these sort of like wine vending machines. If you've ever been to like a Vagabond or what are they called in London? But you know where you help yourself to your own glass of wine? It's kind of a mini one of those, but outside our room here. And they top up a little card with credit when you get here, which I think is a really nice touch. So we're going to help ourselves to a glass of wine and head outside and just enjoy the sunshine before we head over for dinner. Good morning. We have woken up to another gorgeous, gorgeous day in the Cotswolds. We've been so lucky with the weather. This whole week, actually, it was really sunny in Manchester at the start of the week, and now the sun seems to have followed us down here, which is so lovely. It really makes all the difference. It's such a lovely evening last night, and then woke up this morning, went for breakfast. The hotel I would definitely recommend. It's a really nice base to see the Cotswolds, and it's in a really gorgeous setting, kind of on the side of a hill. It's just really lovely. So if you're visiting the Cotswolds, I would recommend that. And there's loads of different rooms, and it's dog friendly, definitely family friendly. There were lots of families, really lovely. So this morning we've driven down into Chipping Campden. I have lived in Chipping Campden twice. I would say Chipping Campden is actually a really big part of my sort of childhood and then teenage years. So I went to preschool, primary school, and my first secondary school in Chipping Campden, and I've also lived here twice. But one of the houses we lived in no longer exists. It's been like knocked down and made into a different house, and the other house we can't get to. But I still really wanted to come to Camden because it played such a huge, huge role in, you know, me growing up. And there's a couple of shops that we wanted to have a look at here as well. This is our first stop today, and then I think we're going to do a little bit of antique shopping in another sort of market town near to here. And then we've got lunch booked at what we would argue is the best pub in the Cotswolds, which is the Fox at Oddington. So we're going to go and have lunch there as well. But yeah, that's the plan for today, so let's get going. This used to be my walk up to primary school every morning. The school is up on the right hand side here, but obviously there's children at school, so we're not going to film the actual school. But then if you keep walking straight on, there's like a big park and it has like a children's play park in. And we would have gone there as children after school to the play park, but also then when we got to the age of like 14 or 15, that's where everyone would go and like meet up on the weekends and things like that. I went to a Church of England primary school, and this was the church that we used to have to come to and sing hymns and all of that sort of thing. I can't really remember how often we came, but I remember that was a really exciting bit of the school week when we could go to church. And then also when it was the harvest festival, we used to make up vegetable baskets. I think this was at school or maybe with the church, and we'd bring them to these houses and deliver them to sort of the older people that lived here. We've just arrived in Stowe, so we're going to have a quick look at a few of the antique shops here, and then we need to run to lunch because it's only about an hour until we have lunch booked. We've just got to lunch and we're just sat outside having a drink while we choose from the menu. But it's so pretty here. Show them the garden, Mum. So nice. It's such a gorgeous day again. So yeah, we're having a lovely day, aren't we, Mum? Yep. This is the bit that we all knew was coming, but it just feels illegal to go back to Manchester without popping into Daylesford first. I don't know what it is about Daylesford, but I've been coming here for 15 years with Mum, and still every time we come there's something to look at because we only really come once a season. So we get all of the autumn stock, then the Christmassy bits, and now we're into spring, which is such a gorgeous season for like home decor and pieces like that, and it's the best place for inspiration. Even if you buy nothing, it's such a lovely place just to come for lunch. Everything's organic, and just get inspiration. So last stop before we head back to Manchester is of course Daylesford. Let's go inside. They sell a whole loaf of the sea bread here, the Good Life bread. Oh, Mum, look. Daylesford have a new scent. I think it's new, it says new, I've not smelled it before. This herb garden, this is the perfect kitchen scent. I would say it's overtaken vine tomato for me, it smells so good. As always, this is the bit that Mum and I spend the most time in, the dog section.
Start to forget how my...
Good evening, everyone. It is now the next evening, so I'm back in Manchester. I've been back in Manchester since yesterday, but I realised that I never actually showed you any of the bits that I picked up while I was down in the Cotswolds, and although all of them are very grown up, possibly very boring purchases that would have bored me 10 years ago, they're things that I'm very excited about now. So I thought I'd really quickly show you before I sort of finish off this vlog. So the first thing that I bought from Daylesford is here actually on top of this box. I bought two of these plants for the garden, because obviously I've been trying to pay a bit more attention to the garden recently. And we made quite a few changes a couple of weeks ago, but we just saw these and thought they were really, really pretty. My mum said they're one of her favourite flowers, and they are, I'm new to all of the terminology, but perennials, I think? Yes, because annuals are just 1 year, perennials, so they will come back next year. And then also from Daylesford, I of course got one of the herb garden candles. I haven't opened this since I got home. I can't wait to light this tomorrow and just have a Sunday in the garden. And on a similar note, from At Home with the Ruds, I got a diffuser. What should I go for? Oh, I can smell this through the box. I went for the jasmine one, and it just smells so good. And the bottles are really nice as well. But the brand is Plum and Ashby, and they sell them in a few different places. So you can possibly get it online, and I'm telling you, you actually can't go wrong with any of the scents. This is such a lovely brand. Everything smells gorgeous. It makes your house smell like you've just sprayed perfume. In fact, I would honestly wear their scents as perfume. They're that good. So I picked up one of those, and then depending on how you look at it, this is either the most boring purchase ever, or if you're me, the most exciting purchase ever. On the morning that we were in Chipping Campden, I spent, honestly, at least an hour and a half. It was painful deliberating on which cutlery to go for from Robert Welch, and eventually settled on their bestseller, designed in the Cotswolds. I was saying to Mum, it's so funny because this shop has been on the high street in Chipping Campden since I went to school there, and for all of those years I will have walked past it and it will have just like not even registered, just the most boring shop in the whole world. And then next thing I know, I'm spending an hour and a half in there deliberating over cutlery. So yeah, if that's not a sign that you are getting old and boring, I don't know what is. Oh, this is all packaged up, but I did get a couple of other bits which will be much easier to show you from the same range. So the range I went for is called Radford. It's their best selling, it's their most popular, it's their most extensive range. And I was debating between that one and one that I think was called Ashby, but that might be the wrong one. It was one with a little bit more sort of detail on the cutlery. But in the end, I just thought this was the sensible decision because it's timeless, and obviously this is a purchase that I won't make again. Like, this will be our cutlery forever, and we can just add to it as and when we need to with different things from the range. Or I just did a 6 person set because that's all we ever really need. But I was very excited by these. So for serving, I bought this huge set with this really big spoon and fork. I just love these, and I think they'll look so pretty sat in like a salad bowl or serving pasta or veg or something like that. And then also for serving, I just got these little tongs because I thought they were really nice, again for serving. But all of the cutlery is very similar to this. So if you can just imagine regular sized spoon. But once I do get the cutlery out of the box, I'll show you in another vlog. I'm sure not that many of you care, but if you are in the market for new cutlery, then you might care. The reason I haven't used them yet is because I'm the kind of person, you know, when you buy something new and then you want to give it the home that it deserves. Like, I really want to clear out my whole cutlery drawer and just clean my kitchen before I get all of this out and wash it and all of that sort of thing. Yeah, that's everything I bought in the Cotswolds, all very adult purchases. This smells divine, so good. See, if anyone wants to know what I'm going to be doing while you're watching this, if you're seeing it on Sunday, I will be deep cleaning my kitchen, putting my new cutlery away, and then once everything is clean and lovely, I'll be lighting my new candle, and I will be completely content. Like, that's the kind of thing that makes a girl happy. So I'm going to leave this week's video here. I really hope that you enjoyed this week's video. I know it was something a little bit different, but I think it's quite nice to just mix it up from time to time, and I honestly had the best time. It was just like a couple of days of walking down memory lane. And I also really hope that if you are planning a trip to the Cotswolds, I hope you got some inspiration for where to stay and where to eat. The fish was lovely. I'd recommend that. The Fox at Oddington, always. And Hidcote Gardens. Hidcote Gardens is gorgeous. I'd definitely go there. So I'm going to go and spend my evening editing. I hope you have the best week ever, and I can't wait to catch up next weekend. Bye guys.